Miami, Oklahoma.
Since 9/11, we've been hearing a lot from our world leaders about how Islam is not extreme. It's a moderate, temperate religion, and that Muslims are peace-loving people. And I'd like your guest to contrast that with the fact that Muhammad's own writings encourage the destruction of infidels, read that as anyone who is not a Muslim, and that Islam in its early days did spread primarily through war and force.
Reza?
Well, almost everything that he said is incorrect. First of all, Muhammad never wrote anything, but I think what he means, of course, is by the Quran. And the Quran actually has absolutely no verses whatsoever that talk about compulsion towards religion. And it's also factually incorrect that Islam spread by the sword. Quite the contrary. For the first 150 years of Islam's expansion, not only was conversion not forced, it was actually discouraged because it meant less tax revenues into the state. But the larger issue here that I want to emphasize is this idea that Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is not a religion of peace, nor is it a religion of war. It's just a religion. And like any religion, it's capable of the greatest heights of compassion and the greatest depths of depravity. We must understand that it is people who are peaceful or violent, not religion. And so in that regard, back to the discussion that we were having earlier, if the images that we see over and over again of our is of people who are acting in extreme or radical ways, then it's only natural that we associate that action and behavior with the worldwide community of 1.5 billion Muslims. But the issue here goes back to this larger question of who gets to speak for a religion. I think that most Americans would like to hear a united voice of condemnation coming out of the Muslim world. They want to hear some representative of the world's Muslims come out and unequivocally say the kinds of things that they would like to hear. But there is no such person in Islam. The simple answer to this question of who speaks for Islam is nobody speaks for Islam.
Go ahead, Dalia.
I think that Reza's right. There is no central authority in Islam. There is no equivalent to the Pope, for example. But that's not the same as saying there's no authority, because there are religious authorities, and they're multiple, and they disagree on many things. But one thing that they have actually been very united about and have been very vocal in terms of issuing official statements is on this issue of condemning attacks on civilians. I can count several official statements signed by the most prominent clerics in the Sunni and in the Shia tradition, unequivocally condemning and saying that terrorism is a complete violation of Islam. This is not a battle within Islam in that sense, because there's actually unanimous agreement within the tradition that this is wrong. And so what the terrorists have done is taken widely held grievances around America's role in the Middle East, around dictatorships in the region, and have said, we have the solution. Vigilante violence toward this utopia that we're promising. The debate is, how does change happen in the region? How do we get to a better society with better governance and less corruption without the use of violence? The debate right now, the real battle, is on the road to reform, not for the soul of Islam.